Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. Today I'm sharing a new kit from Queen & Company. This is the Travel Shaped Shaker Kit. So I'll just quickly go through everything that's included. There are 5 steel dies. A few of them team up together. There's the 2 for the suitcase, there's the arrow, and then the 2 pieces that form the globe. I love the faux stitching detail that's on that outer piece that'll be the frame of the shaker. And then there are 3 sets of the foam pieces. And these are all pre-cut and ready to go. They match perfectly with those dies. You just pop out that center piece and both sides are self-adhesive. You just peel away the backing. Then you just attach it to your card, fill that opening with some shaker toppings, seal it with some acetate, and you're ready to go. Queen & Company's kits make it so easy to make shaker cards. You'll also have the coordinating acetate, which is all pre-cut. And the kit also includes a 3 by 4 inch stamp set full of really fun sentiments. Basically all travel related, but there's a couple that could work any time of the year. So that is everything that's included in the travel kit. You can also purchase the outline dies to coordinate with the kit, and these are always so handy to have. You can use them to cut out some more acetate, or you can just use them for that background of your shaker, and that's what I generally use them for. So I'll just show you a quick comparison from the dies that are included in the kit compared to the outline die. So the one on the right is the outline die, the one on the left is that frame that's included in the kit. So they match together perfectly. The outline die just doesn't cut out the inside part for the shaker. I find them very useful and make sure to pick up a set with all of the new kits. So let's go ahead and get started with card number 1. The paper is the Magical Characters paper collection. All of the paper I will be using for my 6 cards is made by Queen & Company. You can purchase most of their paper pads individually. The sketch I'm going to use is Mojo Monday sketch number 528. So for the first card, you can probably tell already this is going to be a Disney themed card. So many people travel to a Disney theme park somewhere in the world, so I figured it'd be appropriate to make a Disney suitcase card. I used 3 different pattern papers that are included in the paper pad, layered all of it in some black cardstock just for some contrast. And now on the top of the card, I'm using 2 different colors of twine, and this is some of Queen & Company's twine. So I have the black and then also the yellow. I wrapped both colors around the top twice, and then I'm just adhering the ends on that back side using some red line tape. And then I'll also put 1 more piece of red line tape on the very top of the card where the twine is, just to make sure it doesn't pull away from the card base. Then using those same 2 colors, I just slipped it underneath those 2 rows of twine so I can tie a bow. Just snip off the ends, and now I'm going to work on this suitcase. So I have this cut out 3 different times. I have the outline die, which is this piece with the red and white polka dots. And then I'm going to glue that right onto the very background of the suitcase, which includes the handle and then also the wheels. And then I'll just adhere that onto my card panel using some liquid adhesive. And this is Queen & Company's sheer glue. I remove the backing on the foam and then just attach that onto the card. I'm going to let that dry for just a little bit before I add any shaker toppings. So I'm going to work on this sentiment. I cut out a stitched banner using one of Queen & Company's foundation dies. So this is Adventure is Waiting. And then I'm just going to snip off that right hand side because I didn't need that full banner going all the way across the card. And I'm just going to pop that up using some foam dimensional tape, and then I'll just adhere that to the card right above the suitcase. So now I have an assortment of different shaker toppings. One of them is the little Mickey heads in black, and then I also have some jewels and then some of the red princess cut squares. So I'll remove the backing on the other side of the foam so I can attach my acetate, seal all of those shaker toppings in place, and then I'll just use the liquid adhesive, run it along the foam edge, and then also on that inside piece on the suitcase. And then just to let that dry for a little bit, I do like to put my acrylic block or some kind of weight on top. So I'm going to add some embellishments. I used one of the foundation die sets that has an assortment of different stars. I cut them out of some red glitter foam, and this is self-adhesive, so all you have to do is pull off that backing and stick it right on your card. And now I have an assortment of Queen & Company bling. So I have some yellow stars, some petite posies, and also some jelly gems. Queen & Company sells such a huge variety of bling. Sometimes it's hard to just pick a few of them. So there is my finished card, and this is card number 1. Now moving on to card number 2. This sketch is by MFT. It's number 162. The paper collection I'm using is the Vintage Truck Sweater Weather. This is a really fun paper collection because half of it looks like fall colors and the other half looks like Christmas. Although you could still use all of it any time of year since it's not really holiday specific with the patterns. My favorite papers from this whole collection are all of the red and teal. They just look so pretty together. So I have some diagonal stripe paper for the background, a tone-on-tone checkered pattern for that centerpiece, and then I have 3 different pattern papers for these long banners. So I just cut a fishtail in the end of them, and now I'm just going to adhere them all together. Trying to get them nice and straight, although a lot of it's going to be covered, so if they're not perfectly straight, that's still okay. And I'm just going to put a really thin piece of cardstock on that very top area. Otherwise, it'll sort of droop down slightly on that top area, and I like to keep things nice and level on my card. And then I'm going to do the same thing just on this lower portion. Just put a small piece of cardstock. Now for the circle, I cut out a stitched circle die cut out of some white pearlescent paper. And I'm just going to adhere my card front onto a card base before I start assembling my shaker component. So I'm going to use the arrow this time. So I have that background piece cut out using the outline die, and this is just some teal cardstock that's in my stash. And then I used the same cardstock for the frame. So I glued the arrow down first. Now I'm going to put the foam piece, give it a nice good push, make sure to let it dry. And now I can go ahead and add my shaker toppings. I have 3 different kinds. I have some pearlies and then 2 different colors of diamonds. One to stick with the teal and red colors. So I'll just seal that all in place using the acetate. Add some liquid adhesive around that outside edge. Put the little frame on, and then I'll hold it in place using my acrylic block. And I do stop the video and let that dry for just a few minutes before moving on. So for the sentiment, I've already gone and stamped it. This is Let's Explore. I just put it on some white cardstock, layered it in some red cardstock. And then once I decided on the placement, just going to put some foam dimensional tape behind there, just pop it up slightly. And then I cut out a variety of different stitched circle die cuts using some of Queen & Company's glitter paper and then also just some more of this red cardstock that I used for the layers. That upper right hand corner just seemed a little empty to me, so I thought these circles would add some nice detail, fill in that area. I'm just using some liquid adhesive to adhere them in place, and then I did just put one small foam square underneath one side of the red circle just to keep it nice and even. And I'll just add an assortment of Queen & Company bling. This time I have some jelly gems, some frosties, and then also some iridescent goosebumps. I really love the colors on this card. Just that red and teal with a little bit of white just looks so pretty. So there is my finished card, and this is card number 2. Now moving on to card number 3. The paper collection is the Petite Patterns, and I'm using a sketch by Queen & Company. Their sketches are so fun because they were designed to go along with their foundation dies. So if you own the foundation dies, cutting out all of these pieces to put together that sketch makes it really quick and simple. You can still use the sketches even if you don't have the dies, of course. The Petite Patterns paper collection has a rainbow of colors. One side has a chevron tone-on-tone design, and then the opposite side has a polka dot tone-on-tone design. So I'm using the blue for the background with that chevron pattern. I used some blue pearlescent paper cardstock for that rectangle piece, and then I added in a little bit of teal with this fun little label element. And now I'm going to assemble the globe. So for the very background piece of the globe, I cut this out using some silver specialty paper. Just adhere that right onto the card using some liquid adhesive. And then for the center, or the main globe part, I cut this out using some of the purple polka dot paper. So I have the outline die for that background piece. I'm going to add my foam on top and then an assortment of bling, sticking with just white and purple colors. So I have some pops, I have some of the princess cut squares, and then also some diamonds. I'll seal all of that in place using the acetate, attach my frame using some liquid adhesive. I recently made a card using the same papers and also Queen & Company's Hearts Shape Shaker Kit, and I love the colors so much I decided to use them again for this card. For the sentiment, I used one of the foundation die sets and cut out this stitch banner, and the sentiment is, "You make the world a better place." This is a great sentiment. You could use this any time of year to give to your friend, your loved one. I decided not to layer that sentiment strip in the blue cardstock since it already had enough contrast. And now using another one of the foundation dies, this is the narrower sentiment banner. I cut just some solid colors. I have some white and then some more of that blue color that I use for the layers. So I just have these two small banners, cut one just a little bit shorter, and then I'm layering them and adhering them in that upper left-hand corner just for a little extra detail. Then I pulled out the purple trio trims. This is this really beautiful purple color that has some iridescent thread kind of throughout, gives it a really pretty sparkle. I tied it in a bow, and then I'm going to adhere it on the top of the globe using some of Queen & Company's gloobers. So this is the small size, and these are basically like a glue dot. They're just a little bit flatter. So I just put one right underneath the knot and then attached it right onto the globe. And now I have my assortment of Queen & Company bling to decorate, finish off this card. I have some of the bullseyes, the frosties, and the jelly gems. I think the jelly gems are my favorite bling from Queen & Company. They're really small, but I think they add a really lovely touch. So there is my finished card, and this is card number 3. For card number 4, I'm not going to use a card sketch this time. The paper collection is all bundled up. It's my absolute favorite Queen & Company paper collection currently. I use 3 different pattern papers in this pink color and cut out the arrows. On the 2 arrows on the left hand side, I'm just using that inside piece. I didn't use the frame this time. So I just laid out those arrows loosely so I could get the right placement for my sentiment stamp. And this is "Sending you smiles across the miles." So I thought that fit perfectly with a bunch of arrows pointing in different directions. The largest arrow, this polka dot arrow, is going to be the shaker, and then the other 2 are just going to be some little side arrows. Trying to stagger them slightly so they're not perfectly lined up. I just used some liquid adhesive to adhere them onto that panel, flipped over the panel to just trim off those extra side pieces on the arrows. So I'll just layer that on some of this pink cardstock, and then I'll adhere that card front onto a card base. So I'll start working on the shaker component. Some people have asked if you could still make the shaker and have that background without having the outline dies. And yes, you still could. You'd need to cut out a separate frame, so you'd need 2 frames, and then you'd also have that inside arrow, and then you just glue those together. The reason I prefer the outline die is when you have the two pieces where you kind of stick them together, sometimes you can see that little edge, the separation between those two pieces, and I just prefer to not have that look. I like the nice solid piece in the background instead. For the shaker toppings on this card, I used some pearlies, the rubble, and then also some clear diamonds. So overall, this card is fairly simple. I really love the pink and the grays together. I'm just finishing off the card with an assortment of bling. Have some petite posies, some candy shop bubbles, and then also the frosties. And I changed my mind on the placement of a couple of the petite posies. So I did remove them. It does pull off the little sticky part on the back, but you can still use them. Just put a little bit of adhesive, liquid adhesive underneath, and they're just fine, or you could use another small glue dot. So there is my finished card, and this is card number 4. Now moving on to card number 5. The paper collection is the fruit basket, and I'm using a sketch from Freshly Made Sketches. This is number 253. And if you are interested in any of the sketches that I use in this video, I do share all of that information over on my coordinating blog post, and that link is in the description box below. Even though it's right in the middle of winter, I was really in the mood for something a little summery, so I thought this fruit basket paper would be nice and bright and cheerful. In addition to the main elements of the sketch, I'm going to add a little border. So this is using one of Queen & Company's border dies. Just cut it out of some diagonal striped paper. And then I'm going to wrap some twine just along that top portion of the red diagonal striped paper. So I just wrapped it around 2 times. I'll just adhere the ends on the back using some red line tape. Put one extra piece on the bottom just to make sure that it doesn't pull away from the card front or the card base. I add a whole bunch of adhesive on the back before I put this card front onto my card base. Using that same red and white twine, I have that extra piece. I'm just going to slip it underneath the other 2 rows, and I'll just pull it off to the side until I'm sure if I want it on the right or left side of the card. For this strip going across that lower portion of the square, this is a green paper. It's a tone-on-tone design with some limes in the background. I just put some small pieces of cardstock on each of the ends just to keep it nice and even. So I'm going to assemble another shaker card using this suitcase. I'm using some silver mirror paper for this background piece so you can see just the handle and the wheels. Attach some red cardstock. I had considered using some more pattern paper for the suitcase, but I felt like it didn't stand out enough, so I decided just to go with solid cardstock. So this is the same color as all of my matted layers. And I did put just a little piece of cardstock on that lower corner of the suitcase just so it didn't droop down. So I go ahead and attach my foam. So now that I know the placement of the suitcase, I can go ahead and tie my bow. Just trim off the ends. And I decided for the toppings inside the suitcase, I'm going to use an assortment of fruits. These are left over from the fruit basket kit. You can also buy just the refill with all of the fruit. So I just thought that would be super cute to fill the suitcase with fruit. I also included some red pearlies just so it still had that shaker sound. The fruit are more of a clay. Not sure exactly what they're made of, but they don't have that really good shaker sound. So go ahead and adhere the frame of my suitcase, let that dry. I'm going to work on the sentiment. I cut out this larger banner piece using one of the foundation dies, and I'm just going to stamp "Enjoy Every Moment." Just did that in some red ink. And I said I'm going to layer this one with that same red cardstock, so I'm just adhering it. And then I'll just use my scissors and this kind of eyeball, and I usually do about 1/8 of an inch around all of the edges. So I'm just going to adhere that in the upper left hand corner, flip over my card, and then just cut it straight off so it's nice and flush on the edge. So I have an assortment of bling. I'm using some lollies. I have some solid goosebumps, and then also more of those jelly gems that I just love. So this card is just so bright and cheerful. I've always enjoyed these pattern papers. They have lots of different fruit and then also a nice mix of tone-on-tone designs. So there is the finished card, and this is card number 5. Now moving on to my final card, this is card number 6. I'm using another Queen & Company sketch, and I decided to go back to the all bundled up paper collection since I love it so much. This time I'll be using more of the blue and teals, and I won't have any of the pink. So I'm using that diagonal stripe paper for the background, and then just a tone-on-tone checkered paper for this smaller rectangle, layering all of it in some dark blue cardstock. And I'll be using the globe again, but this time I will not be making a shaker card. I thought I'd do something a little different. But first I'm going to go ahead and stamp my sentiment. Used another one of the foundation die sets for this white stitched banner. So this is "You Make the World a Better Place." I'll use some liquid adhesive and attach that background part of the globe. And I use that same blue pattern paper to cut out this circle frame. So for this card I'm going to use some of Queen & Company's foil. This is the silver color. To adhere it, I'm going to use Queen & Company's Gloober sheets. So this is a 6x6 sheet of double adhesive. I'll start by using some scrap cardstock. Just cut a small piece, and then I'm going to remove the white backing of the Gloober sheet. It's the easiest piece to remove, and then just adhere that to the cardstock. And the other side of the Gloober has a clear backing, and it can be difficult to remove. But if you take a piece of Scotch tape and just kind of rub it on the end, it peels that backing right off. So now I just cut a small piece of foil, use that matte side and place it right down on top of the sticky Gloober. Peel it off, and your little Gloober sheet is all decorated with foil. Super easy. You don't need to heat set it. You don't need any special machines. I love using Queen & Company's foil. And then I just ran it through my die cut machine so I could have this inside circle of the globe. First I'll attach this outside frame just using some liquid adhesive. And then I'll put the center, this really sparkly piece of the globe, on the inside. And I'm just using that backing from the Gloober to rub it in, since sometimes you can get your fingerprints pressed into that foil. So now I'm going to attach the sentiment, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to keep it flat. Changed my mind, decided to use some foam dimensional tape just to pop that up a little bit. And I'm following this sketch pretty closely this time. I have my assortment of bling, but then I also wanted to add a few stars instead of the circles that are indicated on the sketch. And I just cut these out of Queen & Company's Fun Foam. This is just their solid gray color. I thought it matched nicely with that background paper since there's some gray stripes there. And I'm just using an assortment of bling. Not totally sure where I'm placing some of these, so I keep changing my mind. And then even after I finish this card on video, I changed my mind again and removed a few pieces and put them in another spot. My plan was to make this a masculine card. I'm not sure if you can still have all of that sparkle on a masculine card, but I still think it works. So there is my finished card, and that is card number 6. So now here's just a quick recap of the 6 cards I made using Queen & Company's Travel Shaped Shaker Kit. This kit was so fun to use. I like the variety of looks using the different paper collections. Let me know which card was your favorite. I really like the pink arrows, but I think the fruit suitcase is really fun as well. I will provide links in the description box for all the products used if you are interested in purchasing any of these items. At the end of the video, I'll also add a few links to a few other Queen & Company Shaped Shaker Kit videos. They have a great assortment of different shapes, so you can make these great shaker cards or simply use the dies. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.